I'm Rebecca Dopp, founder of Exponent, an organization that fights for global gender equality at the highest levels of power, influence, and decision-making, knowing that meaningful progress lies in ensuring equitable representation where corporate, industry, and policy decisions are made.
Now, more than ever, it is critical that we include all women's voices, and we will not stop until we have equality.
We are a country founded in profound inequality.
I could not get assignments that were political in any way, that just wasn't their view of what women did.
We were conditioned to believe that if anything is hard, that means we're failing.
If you don't have a framework that allows you to see how the starting positions are not equal, then efforts to do something equitable seems like preferential treatment.
We need to talk about it because otherwise, how are we ever going to discover the inequities if we're not having a discussion about it? Learn more at exponent.org. I'm Rebecca Dopp, founder of Exponent, a global equity accelerator that lifts up others who are doing the work. Exponent is honored to be the presenting partner at this year's ODI conference, and the only thing that could make this any better would be for us all to be together in person. Maybe next year. The next hour-ish will feature a conversation between Marissa Lambert and me about making tough choices and forging your own path in this industry. Then you will be invited into the home of living legend and feminist organizer Gloria Steinem for a talking circle. A special shout out to our new friends Julia, Frankie, Marissa, and Brittany. Enjoy the show.
I'm here today with Rebecca E. Dopp, the founder of Exponent, a global coalition that amplifies gender equity efforts at the highest levels of power, influence, and decision-making. Exponent is also this year's presenting partner for this conference, so you'll see some sparks throughout the day of the magic they produce. Exponent started as a 20% project inside of Google, and in 2020, it spun out of Google as a standalone 501c3. Exponent counts luminaries like Erica Alexander, Kimberly Crenshaw, Glennon Doyle, Abby Wambach, and Gloria Steinem as members, and companies including BBC, Bloomberg, and NASDAQ as partners. We're seeing little of their work next in the Talking Circle Exponent hosted with some lucky ODI students, including myself. Rebecca spent 20 years in media at HBO, CBS, YouTube, and now Google. She served as a senior leader on the launch teams of HBO Go, CBS All Access, and YouTube TV. She is also a corporate board director and advisor to companies at the intersection of media and technology. It's hard to not be inspired from Rebecca, and I'm excited to be in conversation with her here today. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hi, Marissa. Thank you so much. That was amazing. And I just want to say I am so excited to be here. And the only thing that could make it better is if we were all together. I'm really inspired by the work that ODI does. I'm really inspired by all of the students. And I'm just thrilled to be in conversation with you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. We're so thrilled and honored to have you, and so excited to hear about all the work you've done over the course of an amazing career.
After attending an intimate sort of call to action with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada, and he said, listen, I've got a gender balanced cabinet. What are you people in industry doing? What are corporations doing to really fight the inequities that exist from a gender perspective? And I was so inspired by him talking and challenging us. And he was talking about his kids and saying, I make sure that I tell my daughter that she can be anything that she wants to be. And then I make sure that my son knows that too, right? I turn to my son and say, she could do anything she wants to do. I think that that's really powerful, and I was so inspired that I really went to the drawing board with a couple of my friends at Google, and off the side of our desk really created this model, which, eventually evolved into Exponent, And the idea is that we all come to the table with different passions, with a different portfolio of experiences and skill sets, with different sort of superpowers. And rather than just giving money or, frankly, attention or access to the organizations and to the people that are, the boots on the ground and the people that are doing the work, why don't we bring our superpowers to them? And so that could take many different forms, right? Some non-profit organizations that are doing really good work need an incredible data scientist to come in and really help them do that. Some people just need storytelling, right? Some organizations need a beautiful website to help them tell the story, because their skill sets because the organization's skill sets and passions really reside in the program itself. And so the idea was just, let's all come to the table and use our superpowers to amplify the most powerful gender equity initiatives out there and really help them scale, right? And help exponentially increase their impact, which is what we aim to do. And over the course of a very short period of time, a couple of things happened that were so inspiring. The first was, I was overwhelmed with people from across Google and from outside of Google that wanted to help and came forward and said, I don't know what I can do, but here's what I do really well, right? And that's everything from, a senior partner, M&A attorney coming forward and saying, like, what exactly can I do? Because I want to participate and I want to be a part of this, right? Or Abby Wambach or Glennon Doyle or Gloria Steinem. But there are people all across now, not only Google, but we've rolled outside of Google, that are just coming forward saying, I've got something really special to give, and how can we make that happen? And so we created Exponent, and I'm so thrilled with how it's really brought people together. And as Gloria says, she doesn't pass the torch. She lights other people's torches, right? So she lights the way for everyone else, and we're all putting our torches together and making everything bigger as a result.
Mm-hmm. No, it's incredible. And as you said, it all happened in a very short span of time. Just the success, it really did take off exponentially. But where did this interest start? Like, has this been, since your college years, you've always been really thinking about gender equity? Kind of, where did this passion begin? Was there a specific event that sparked it, or it's just always kind of been a part of you?
It's a good question. I've always been, from the time that I was a small child, really passionate. And I will say, as I've gotten older, it's gotten much more productive, my passion, but about injustice, right? And from a very young age. And I think a lot of kids just naturally are this way. If small children see injustice, they get angry, right? Like, and they stomp their feet and they want to know why. And so I've always had that. I've always had that real fire and fight in me when it came to any sort of injustice, because let's not forget, all injustices are inextricably linked, right? And so it's not just gender, race and gender in particular, are inextricably linked. And so I've always had that. And then as I was sort of coming up and coming into my own in my career, I did a lot of not-for-profit work outside of my professional life. And I was on the board, and I was the chair of the Child Abuse Prevention Program, which brought, and still does, puppets into third grade classrooms. And the puppets teach the children how to recognize, report, and resist abuse. Mm-hmm. And I was so passionate about that and taken away, frankly, when I attended one of those sessions and I saw all the students afterwards that actually stayed behind to go and give disclosures and talk to the puppets about what they had been experiencing. And so that, I think, my experience in the Child Abuse Prevention Program really led me to direct a lot of that passion and that fire towards protecting women and children. And protecting women and children, but also empowering, right? Because protection is one piece of it. Prevention is a huge piece of it. But then you also, like, we are all responsible to one another. And it's really important to then not only sort of protect, but empower and lift each other up. And so that, and then that brought me to the New York Foundling, which is a huge organization in New York City that has not only the child abuse prevention program, but it also has foster care and a crisis nursery and a school. And so I've always sort of, outside of my work, been very passionate about these things and drawn to them. And, I think the pivot point was when I attended that session with Prime Minister Trudeau. And I was in that moment just fiercely intent on marrying all of the passions and the work that I was doing outside of my work with everything that I was doing inside of the work, and really marrying the two together. Because for the first 20 years of my career, I kept my personal life and my professional life very separate in many ways. And that was, the way it was back then. And I think because of so many things, including devices that make everyone sort of always on and always available, our lives are fully integrated. And to be most authentic, I've realized over the years, it's important to have boundaries, but it's also important to really marry, to the extent that you can, who you are outside of work with who you are inside of work. And so that's really, that sparked for Exponent. And that's really, once you do that a little bit, it almost becomes addictive, right? Like, oh my goodness, like it's so powerful. It's so exciting. And I want to do more of this, and let's figure out a path. I don't know exactly how this is going to work. But I know that it's going to work. Right. And so just moving forward.
I was just listening to a podcast with the chief editor of The New Yorker, and he was saying that what he really wants to do there is give his employees the opportunity to work on things that really matter to them, and allow them to indulge in their passions on the job. And I think as long as companies are doing that, I think really, really remarkable things can come out of that. As Exponent is a great example. And like you said, Gmail, I'm very thankful for that, as many other people are. So I think that's great that, that's a company initiative, but also that employees like yourself are taking it upon themselves to take these ideas and really make them big. And on that note, as a young person, I guess I would say, I have a lot of big ideas and a lot of big things that I love to do. And so do my peers. And, we all talk about these things. But it's scary and it's intimidating. And I think the first step is really believing that you can do it, that you are the one that not even deserves to be there. I mean, we all do, but you're the one that can be there. How has your mindset about that kind of been shaped over the years? Have you always thought, I'm going to do great things, I'm going to start this thing and it's going to blow up, and we're going to be talking with Gloria Steinem and Abby Wambach and these amazing people? Or is it something that you continuously have to work on, kind of that imposter syndrome, if you will?
It's a great question. So first of all, just to be clear, everyone has imposter syndrome. If you have empathy and you are self-reflective and you're thoughtful, everyone has imposter syndrome. So just sort of take that in. Sometimes it's incredibly powerful to, like, if you are feeling that way, if it's a safe space, to say that to whomever you're talking to, like, man, I'm feeling really nervous right now, right? Or whatever else, because it's real and it's authentic. And so I would encourage you and others to lean into that, not in a way where it's imposter syndrome is not productive, right? But lean into the honesty of that, to really explore that, because you do deserve to be there, to be clear, right? But I also think that, the first part of your question is, or started out with, there are a lot of really big things, but it's scary, right? It's really, really scary. And I think that the source of that is there's a fear of failure. And just to be clear, you're going to fail probably a lot, right? If you are striving and you ultimately are successful in anything, you're going to fail so many times. And you kind of just have to accept that. And from a very young age, when I was starting out my career and making decisions, because a lot of those decisions, again, are really pivotal to what you want to do and sort of set the trajectory. And if you are on the wrong path, get off it. Like if there's anything I can say, like if you already know that your boss doesn't support you, you're not surrounded by people that are lifting you up, you just kind of hate the content, like you need to find a way to get out. That doesn't mean quit immediately, right? You want to make sure that you're continuing to be able to sustain yourself and do things, but you need to spend as much time as you can in very supportive surroundings, and whatever that means and whatever that looks like. And if you don't have a supporting surrounding in work, get out of it as soon as possible, but lean into your support system at home. But you're going to fail, and play this game with yourself, or ask yourself this question in advance of really taking a leap. And that is, what is the absolute worst that could happen?
Yeah.
What is the absolute worst that could happen? I mean, you could look foolish, right? You could lose your job. You could, there are certain things, but then, you sort of sit with that and like truly go through that and say, gosh, if I lost my job because I was pursuing my passion and I had good intentions and then maybe that's not the best job for me. And maybe that's just, that is a way to push me into, something that I should have been doing sooner. Right. And so when you start to have that fear bubble up, you start to walk through the worst case scenario. I think that's really helpful, because I think, for me at least, it helps eliminate some of the fear. But then on the heels of that, so that's the worst case scenario. But then also after that, envision, what is the best case scenario? What is the best case scenario? The best case scenario is that this could lead to something else that I haven't even imagined for myself. This could lead to such greater impact. This little conversation, this little effort, this anything could be instrumental in moving forward. And then when you sort of balance
Right.
the pros and cons, then it becomes pretty easy, right? Yeah. And then the more you do that, and the more that you take a leap, and the more you take these chances, and the more taste of impact that you feel, and looking into somebody else's eyes and really making a difference for them, again, the more exciting it becomes, and the more that fear just sort of dissipates, and it almost becomes like super fun. Like that fear starts to bubble up, and you're like, I got this. Like I got this, and I got you. I'm gonna rock this. And it's amazing, but guess what? If it's not amazing, because you're not always gonna win, right? You're not always gonna be successful. Things are gonna go over like a lead balloon, and that is okay. And I think that's the hardest part. So many people have said this, but the hardest part is just getting started. So just do it. Just get started. Just move forward. Just do the work, and it really and have good intentions, right? Have good intentions. Look at the people around you. Lift other people up, and it comes together, and then you will find your own special path. Do not emulate anybody else. Just try to be the best version of yourself, and you can look up to people. I so admire Gloria Steinem, but I don't want to be Gloria Steinem. I want to be the best version of myself, right? Like, and I want to take some of the learnings that she's had, but I'm a different person, and I can add value in other ways. And so you just got to keep moving forward.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point, which is maybe it won't go over well, but for every 10 people that don't like what you've put out there, or whatever, maybe think it's silly, there's one person that it really mattered to. And I think when you weigh those, the one definitely outweighs the 10 people who don't really care. So I think you also have to take that into consideration. And we also talked about this at Gloria's, but we talked about how growth happens when you do the things that you don't feel quite ready to do. So
That's
right. just getting started. And if you don't, you're never going to feel ready anyways. At least that has been my case. But when I started just doing things that I was like, well, I'm not cut out for this, and I don't, imposter syndrome, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm just going to do it anyway. just being bold, the returns were tenfold. I've like learned that in the past year. It's amazing how if you're kind and you have good intentions, but also if you're bold, good things really do come. You just have to be willing to, to put yourself out there and try. You touched on this in the beginning a little bit of being somewhat of a challenger and how that has brought tension. Can you touch on that in your career? Because I think that's something that, my generation, we feel very passionately about, but there's such a dissonance with the generation who might be our bosses or whatnot. It kind of creates a lot of tension.
Yes. So first of all, let me just say, I am so grateful to your generation for being bold and for marching in the streets and for speaking out and for defending individuality and standing up for what you believe in. And I see so much promise in your generation for all of the reasons that you just described. So thank you. Thank you to your generation. Thank you to the generation that's ahead of you. To be honest, there's no easy way to do it. It has created a lot of tension for me. I don't take no ever, right? I've learned how to do that. I've learned how to do that more diplomatically and push back more diplomatically. I've learned somewhat, and I'll be continuing to learn until the day that I die, to be a little less of a hothead, when I'm trying to plow through things and get things done and I'm excited and I know that it's going to work. Right. And somebody's telling me no, it's not, it's not a fun place to get in my way, right? When I'm like super charged and ready to go. And that has 100% created tension in my career, and tension that has propelled me in a lot of ways, but then also tension that I would have had a lot more fun if I didn't have. I don't know that I would change it, right? I don't know that I would change it, because if we get lulled into the status quo, and if we get intimidated or, frankly, in some cases, bullied, right, or spoken down to in ways that discourage sort of reaching and pushing and driving, it's not helpful. By the way, it's not helpful for the organization. It's not helpful for that manager. It's not helpful across the board. Healthy dialogue and debate and discord is good, and it's how we move forward. And we don't agree, like all of the people on the planet don't agree on everything, and that is a good thing, right? We make things better. But if you are going to be a contrarian, if you are going to push forward, if you are going to push limits, there will be people that are trying to push back, right? That are trying to maintain the status quo, that are intimidated, that are threatened, that want to maintain the privilege that hasn't been earned. Like, all of those things are very, very real. And the only, I guess the only advice that I could give is you got to you must be kind. You must have good intentions. Don't fight for the sake of fighting. Right. But you got to accept the fact that not everybody's going to love that. And not everyone's going to support it. And in fact, there will be people that are overt about it and very covert about it. They're going to try to hold you back because you don't know your place. Right. And like that whole like knowing your place thing is complete and utter bullshit. Your place is wherever you want to be, period. And so just, do it with aplomb, do it with grace. I'm still learning all of this. But push back, right? If you see injustice, don't fall in line. We form circles, right? That's what Glorious Talking Circles are all about. We get together and we push forward, and you're just going to have to get comfortable with conflict. And that's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing for a lot of women to do. It's a hard thing for marginalized people to do because conflict has been so oppressive, right? But that's the only way that we're going to change, and it's the only way that we're gonna really push forward. And just surround yourself with people that encourage that and support that, and allies, allies and friends that lift you up instead of tearing you down.
At ODI, we're all about making the media industry more diverse. What can we do as a collective, but also as individuals, to increase diversity within that space?
Demand it. Demand it in front of the camera, demand it behind the camera, demand it in every way, shape, and form. And we just talked about this. Your generation does that, right? Like, speak with your pocketbook, speak with your, with where you want to go and work. Don't accept anything less, like, I'm sorry, we are beyond unconscious bias. No one can have any unconscious bias at this point because it's all the biases have been pointed out, right? Like, if there's anything unconscious, then we need to, continue to do work on ourselves. But we need to demand it, and we need to demand it at every level, right? Not just ensuring that we have diverse thought and diverse representation at the least, paid jobs, right? Demand it in the C-suite, demand it in the boardroom. And you can only do that, in my opinion, by finding your tribe and getting together. And that tribe is a collection. In my case, my tribe doesn't necessarily look like me and doesn't necessarily have my background. My tribe are just my people who support me, and I support them through everything. Right. And so you just get together and you just demand it. And there's power in numbers, and and so we just, go to movies that are doing the right thing, support people who are doing the right thing. I mean, one thing that actually has been interesting throughout, especially in media, right? In media and entertainment in particular, there is actually a long history of blackballing people that speak their mind, right? And nowadays people are, calling it the cancel culture, but I'm sorry, cancel culture has been around. That, people have been their opportunities have been removed because of because of gossip, because somebody didn't like what they did. And so they've literally been blackballed in the entertainment industry. That is atrocious. And we should all and little things to the big things, right? When, if someone comes to you and says, don't work with that person, figure out what's going on there. Right. I think that we just need to continue talking about it. We need to talk about how much we make. Stop not talking about money, right? Like, we need to all talk about how much we make. We need to all talk about our real experiences wherever it is we work. We need to work together. We need to lift one another up. We need to forgive one another, right? Like, people make mistakes. People screw up. People are, in stressful times and under a lot of, pressure. People do the wrong things. We need to just work together to lift one another up, to forgive one another. And in the media industry in particular, demand nothing less than representation for your audience. If you want to go out there and you want to have a broad audience, you better have broad representation all up and down the organization, in front of the camera, behind the camera, at all levels.
Yeah, I was on the plane yesterday coming back from California, and I was kind of just watching all the different movies and TV shows that were playing. And one of them was an incredibly diverse production. And I was just sitting there thinking, that is so great. This is the first time that I'm seeing representation for this group. And I'm sure it's the first time that they are too. And obviously we have such a long way to go, but I'm happy that the conversation is at least getting started. And I also think what you said about cancel culture having been around for a long time is incredibly wise, because all these people are throwing up their hands about this new phenomenon, but it's been going on, this silencing and right, taking opportunities away from people for so long, but the people that didn't deserve it in any respect, and this kind of silent culture, whether it's about, pay for women, or whether it's about harassment and just treatment in general in the media industry and in other industries, the secrecy was only protecting the people that didn't deserve protection,
That's right.
So
That's right.
now we're course correcting. And yeah, I think that was such a great, I like had this realization as you were saying that. Well, we could not have ended on a better note. Thank you so, so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Take care.
The power of meeting in a circle isn't new. For most of human history, our ancestors came together in circles as a common form of governance to build bridges and even spark movements for change. Talking circles are safe and all contributions are equal. Consensus is more important than time. There is no hierarchy. Everybody listens. Everyone belongs. As the world stares resolutely into the face of widespread global injustices, the need for honest, bold conversation has never been greater. To celebrate what unites us and overcome what divides us. And when we see injustice, we can't fall in line. We must form circles.
This lesson has been learned constantly by other people in the civil rights movement, in the women's movement.
I'm Rebecca Dopp, founder of Exponent. For generations, Gloria Steinem's New York City apartment has hosted thousands of talking circles and brought people from all walks of life to meet in her home and speak their minds. And the power of these circles can be world-shifting.
50 years of talking circles have happened here for various reasons. The start of Ms. Magazine, the National Women's Political Caucus.
Gloria knows the best way to solve a problem is to do more listening than speaking, to learn as you lead. The next iteration of Talking Circles will bring new leading voices to her living room, knowing what was will be again.
Just sitting there and seeing the change of mood, the confidence, the kind of transformation that comes from being in a circle was a huge lesson, a life lesson.
A place for world leaders, activists, children, and everyone in between to make change from the inside out.
So if you want to have a talking circle, I'm your person. Call me up.
Yes, please.
When you think about the media, what do you think of? Because I think age-wise, we think about different forms of media, right?
Yeah. Social media, movies, I think that's what I consume the most. And that's what I want to have my life in.
Yeah, movies too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Do people have other definitions of media?
Well, my definition of media is just kind of always newspapers first and then actual news, just because when I grew up, in a lot of my classes, we had to do current events, so it's always buy the newspaper, read it fully, especially the New York Times, and actually consume what's happening in the world, So I always think of newspapers first.
And do you read the newspaper?
Not as much anymore. I have the New York Times app on my phone, so that's how I do it. I don't physically buy it anymore, which is a shame because I love like paper. Like, I still write things down
Do you
manually.
sort of talk to yourself while you're reading the newspaper? Why don't they cover this? And why don't they?
I think I do afterwards. You know, I'm very much consume everything first, form my thoughts, and then I'll have like a mental conversation about it.
You know, it's interesting that you say that because with newspapers, they're set up in a way where you can find stories that you wouldn't otherwise see. And part of consuming the New York Times through the app is you're actually getting the top line, and you don't have the opportunity to not only turn the pages, which is very gratifying and lovely, but also to find those stories that you wouldn't otherwise find. And so I think it's a challenge for all of us in media to make sure that we can continue to tell those stories that aren't necessarily the stories that get the most clicks, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. It's very curated. Like, I think the first pages are for you.
Yes.
You know, and the way that algorithms work, they're kind of like you mentioned, generated to, okay, you've looked at this, so all of this might interest you, but you know, it is good to read the things that don't interest you because that's where you'll find like the meat and like the gravitas of things.
And also what isn't there that pisses you off.
Oh yeah,
Right.
That's what the good stuff is.
And those are the stories we want to tell.
Yeah.
For me, media has changed so much in recent years. I feel like my definition of it has kind of been changing along with it. I used to consider it news, like you were just saying, but now I think media for me is just storytelling, whether it's from a podcast or from a TV show or a movie. But that's my favorite part of it, to tell our struggles and our triumphs and share experiences with other people.
Yeah, the narrative is the key, really. I mean, that's what our brains are organized around, stories, right?
I agree with everything that they've all said. I think my definition of media definitely has changed since I was younger, but I have a journalism background. I majored in journalism in my undergrad, so newspapers for me definitely was like the forefront of what I believed media always was. But I love movies, I love TV, I love all the streaming platforms, and I think that's kind of what I love about media is like there's so many different ways to consume it and so many different types of media. It's like it's so different and it's always changing.
And they have an internal clock in a way. I mean, there was a philosopher named Suzanne Langer who, because she was a woman philosopher, means nobody knows who she was, but she was a great philosopher, who said that every art form has an intrinsic time. You know, a book is time past by its form, even though it may be science fiction, but its form tells you it's time past. And plays are time present, because they're happening in front of you. And movies are dreams. And that's what, you know, gives them their power.
It's a really good analogy. I like it.
And you all are, do you all know each other?
I'm the odd one out.
Yeah, the three of us.
Right. So
The three of us know. Well, I knew of Julia from our master's program.
Okay.
Marissa goes to Fordham for undergrad.
So we met last week, and we met her today.
And the three of us met for coffee this morning. So
Yeah, well, that's part of our purpose, that we all get to meet each other, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And you're some of you are in a graduate program, so you're serious about media.
Yes.
And the business side specifically?
For me, it's kind of, I just finished my master's in marketing intelligence, and now I want to apply what I know from marketing intelligence and from my background in business to the media industry. So that's one was more focused on my knowledge and skills, and now the media is because I want to go to that industry.
Interesting.
And I'm in the graduate program too, so I'm really interested in entertainment, specifically working for like one of the bigger entertainment companies in marketing, corporate communications, something around that. But I just started the program. We're only 2 weeks in, so I'm excited to learn more and like kind of tailor that to like what I'm really interested in doing.
Is it a 2-year program or
It's a 1.5 year program.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll have to answer that question sooner rather than
I'm at a bit of a crossroads, I think, with media. I had a news internship in the spring and I really enjoyed it, but with recent events, I've been kind of thinking about my career and what direction I want to take it, and if there's something like a little deeper I can get at. So I'm still super interested in entertainment, but I'm seeing it as more of an arc of a career, and maybe that will come later. But right now I'm just working with, great people, helping people have better opportunities at their jobs and whatnot. So like I said, at a bit of a crossroads.
What about that news internship made you pivot?
It's all consuming, I think. And the station that I worked at was great and everyone was super nice, but they, especially in this climate, said it was not easy. And we're kind of saying you really have to love it to do it. So it was a good experience and I might get there one day, but there are other things I would explore before.
What was the hard part?
The hard part for them, a lot of complaints coming in just from people, watching about the way they report their news. And I think the other scary thing, at least in a career setting, is there's many jobs that are not that glamorous at the beginning stage, like working at, a news station and you're covering traffic and whatnot. And then at kind of the highest pinnacle of that career, you're on, you're broadcasting from Washington, D.C. And that long journey is kind of intimidating, I think, If I could do it on the Hill, that would be amazing. But it's a long journey. It's intimidating being a young woman and thinking about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you feel, just looking at the population, do you still feel it's too male and too white and, right, just visually?
Right. Yes, I am seeing a little more representation, which I appreciate, but I think even deeper than just looking at the news industry, it's like internalized of what I can do as a young woman. So, yeah.
And that's from, what do you think of when you say that? I mean, just what you see in the culture, what your family told you.
Yeah, not my family. I think what I see in the culture, I think it's a lot of it's even subconscious, and it just kind of came up as we were sitting here. I think, that's a question I would love to ask you. How did you believe that you could do these extraordinary things? There's such a gap, and it's kind of hard to get there. So I would love to pick your brain.
Well, I didn't. No, I mean, it's kind of one day at a time, right. And if you really care about something, you're mad about some crazed injustice or two people who should be working together and are not, or I don't know, whatever, that kind of urgency is what keeps you going. And then a day at a time and a day at a time, but it's the substance. I mean, I never, ever imagined that I would be able to continue, my life as a freelancer until this advanced age. Hello, and no. I didn't know what was going to happen. And that may be one of the differences, I don't know, you tell me, between when we're beginning and when we're on the way. We realize that there's not one way or the right way. There's your way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it just keeps changing, right?
And do you feel that you have to have it all mapped out?
I kind of do. I mean, I'm going back to college later in life. Mm-hmm. I will be 32 next week, and I'm a junior pursuing my bachelor's actually in history. So kind of to pivot back, I don't have I wouldn't say a real connection, but my, studies isn't really media focused. It's more history mm-hmm. focused and just kind of.
It's actual facts as opposed to. Right.
And just kind of
What is there part of history you love?
I love medieval Renaissance history, specifically Plantagenet Tudor history.
Oh, that's so fascinating.
Yeah. So.
But that's great. And how did you plunge into that? Accidentally or?
Well, reading a lot. My favorite type of books are kind of like, if it's not historical fiction, it's kind of like 18th century British literature. It's kind of weird and out there, but it's what I like. And speaking about like books being the past, books are a way to get lost in yourself, or just lost to the world, and you're just consuming so much information. So much of it is different than yours, and I don't know, it's just interesting. And I think through my studies, just kind of finding myself in history has always been hard. So that's kind of shifting and focus what I want to do with history, is just to tell history from perspectives that, if it doesn't necessarily look like me, then just kind of digesting history from somebody that is not the norm. When you go to museums today, it's a lot of older white males, maybe some older white females. You don't really see people that look like you, and it can be intimidating. And history is not intimidating. Everybody should know history, whether you're Brazilian, whether you're from Florida. Everybody has history.
Maybe not Florida.
Everybody has history, and it's important to know it, however you digest it or not. And I think that just really speaks to what's happening, in the world today. We're here, we're talking with you, and you have so much history, and there's so much to learn from the past to inform the future. You can't know where you're going without looking to the back. I had a class yesterday, and Friday, and we were talking about Petrarch, and he's considered one of the first humanists. And one of the things that he did was he wrote to people from the past. That was his way of kind of digesting their information and making it relevant to him. And, that's what we should do today. As we're trying to make moves and strides in the world, don't forget where you come from and use that to kind of inform where you're going.
I wonder if we'll ever really have world literature. We don't, obviously. I mean, it's so, because of colonial whatever, it's so European based here. When we all started in Africa, that's where people started. So how come we don't start history there? Yeah.
It's perspective, even I learned a really cool thing about maps. I really didn't realize that, but technically speaking, the map they were looking at, the size is wrong, and I never, and I never really knew that. And you always hear, history, and it's told by the victors, and it's written by the people who won, and that, not changes the narrative, but that informs the narrative, as you were saying earlier, and we can't try to change things if we're not a part of the narrative. So I think really we just have to find our places. And you were talking about like your internship, and things are going to be hard, but it's important to just kind of realize like substance, why you're there, what you're trying to do in order to kind of go forward.
Well, I hope it's better in your day than in mine, because in mine it was almost all European history, and I got interested in and ended up going to India for 2 years because there was a 1-semester course by a woman who just happened to have worked there. It was a complete accident, otherwise I wasn't there. And we, if the world were 100 people, I think only 20 would be from Europe or here, and everybody else would be from Africa or Asia. I mean, I don't know if we're ever going to get over that.
I think from your generation, I think it's a bit better, but maybe not still as inclusive.
Yeah, I can just tell my story about Brazil. And we normally in school study Brazil from when Portugal got there. But there was already life there.
Yes, hello.
Yes. way before.
Okay, I rest my case. That's a good example. What? That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you always say that what we learn about history is like 1/10 of human history.
Yeah. Well, there are two things: history and the past, and they are not the same. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I rest my case.
Well, it's the same thing when we talk about Africa. A lot of people start Africa with the transatlantic slave trade, but we know that there are thriving civilizations there. We have Timbuktu, we have Mali. We have these great empires of the past that informed Europe.
In fact, that's where all civilization began, right?
Yeah. But nobody talks about that. Like when people view Africa, talking about media, the general assumption is that they're poor, they're dirty, they're downtrodden. It's feed the children. You know, they need our money to survive. But all of that is just based on colonialism. You know, Europe came in and kind of stripped all their resources and left. And they didn't know how to pick themselves back up. But, you know, again, just it's important to know that, you know, that it just doesn't start with Portugal. It doesn't just start with the transatlantic slave trade. Like there's history before that. And it's just good to know.
No, and even, I mean, we're now doing it by territory, by Africa, and, you know, where it's especially obvious and especially political. But it's true on every continent. I mean, before Europeans showed up here, we are in Manhattan, which is Mannahatta Island, and there were what came to be called Native American cultures that were and are incredibly sophisticated in terms of medicine, philosophy, construction of huge, you know, settlements bigger than anything in Europe before it was there. I mean, you know, it's so limited what we're learning, and we're counting on you to unlimit it.
Well, you knew that there was a greater, I mean, you got angry that it just started.
Yeah, because like actually my name is Julia Ururai, which is like native Brazilian name. And I grew up wanting to know more about it. I found out that actually it was a Portuguese family that moved to Brazil and adopted like a Brazilian name. So it's a very shallow story. But I was always like eager to know more about that. Like all the neighborhoods in Brazil have like native Brazilian names. And that's, I mean, I'm always wanting to know more about that, and we don't have a lot, you know.
But there's still cultures that represent it, right?
Yes.
Is there enough contact? Is that the problem?
No. So the thing is, now it's very touristy. Like there are some cultures in Amazonia, and you can reach them. Some you can't, and they want to be like that. They are like completely apart from technology and everything. But some you can go there. You can like spend a week there. But is it really how it is? You know,
yeah, right.
Because like it became like a tourist attraction. So yeah, it's actually something that I really want to go. I really want to go to Amazon and you know, like explore a little.
But at least they protected the natural resources and protected the trees and so on, did they not?
Yeah,
or at least,
yes, but with the fires, with the Amazon fires and everything, like it's getting harder and harder to find like nature. I mean, Amazon is still huge, but a lot of those communities are gone by now because of the fires. And the fires are happening because they want to create like cows, because Brazil exports meat. So yeah. Well, everything comes back to politics.
Well, the Amazon is called the Amazon, theoretically at least, because there were these groups of powerful women.
Yes.
Who lived in caves and who represented Amazons.
Yeah.
So there's a little hope.
Yes, and we still have a lot of that in the Brazilian culture, like medicine. I think we kind of merged everything, but we don't stop. Like there's a lot of like Black history, like African history, Portuguese, native Brazilian, but we don't try to understand why. We just like, yeah, it's part of our history. That's it.
It's so interesting to figure out why, since we're all ending up with colonialism here, and internally or externally, or not ending up with it, but focusing, why that happened. And I think, I mean, probably a historian would, you know, not appreciate what I'm about to say. But I think that European culture, or the culture in Europe, was agricultural and, you know, very nature oriented and so on. And the healthcare workers, you might say, the healers were women. And they, you know, attended at births and performed abortions and, you know, sort of gave women control of their own bodies. But as patriarchy and monotheism came along, then they became, you know, very much the adversaries and became known as witches and bad people and stuff like that. So it's interesting to look before that and see what existed. Because if it hadn't been for monotheism and patriarchy and all of that, Europe would not have got overpopulated, by taking away the means not to have children. It's so overpopulated that it became colonial and started to, go to all of our other continents, right? So it all starts with us. If we have control of our own physical, so really, to me, that's the first step in democracy.
Yeah, I was going to say, going back to the the narrative of your history, I do feel that we are on the cusp of a new era where they're retelling those stories, and I don't know if anyone else feels the same way. I think with Kamala Harris, she'll be the first woman on walls, hopefully in classrooms and in textbooks, and the arc of history is really long, but I have some hope because I do think we are on the turning page.
I agree with that. I also think that it's hard to try to change someone's mind and perception. I mean, there's a whole big debate going on about critical race theory and about how it's just not true. How could you, retell our history, or how could you add this into there? And it's not added into it. It just wasn't told before. Right. So I agree that, with the way the tide that's going, it's a more opening up to going back again to different narratives that weren't available before, and I do see that, and I'm grateful for that because it is needed. Again, circling back, Brazil was Brazil, or maybe another name natively, but it was there before Portugal got there. Africa was there before Europeans got there. Every other single country existed before Europe. They are not the center of the world, even though they like to think they are.
Yeah, I do not understand the whole, well, I sort of understand the rebellion against critical race theory. I mean, I don't get it. I mean,
well, Gloria's good friend, Kimberly Crenshaw, is the mother of critical race theory. She's also the mother of intersectionality. And I think that there's a rebellion against this thinking that, stories were not told correctly, and we need to retell it, but there's a threatening of status quo, which is, I think, pushing against critical race theory, also pushing against intersectionality.
I mean, it's insane.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
People are here. Hello. I mean, right. Right.
I think that pushback is discouraging and it's so present, but I think also the fact that it's here is what, it's part of the conversation. That's what gives me some hope for it.
I know Gloria used to say when she was traveling, when we were all traveling more, that people would come up to her and say, a Black person took my job. And she would say, who said it was your job?
Yeah, right. It's the "my" that's the problem.
Yeah. And I think that in schools,
or a woman took my job, a guy would say,
And I think in schools, there is this fear of imparting one history is taking away from another history. It's like, we're just adding to the conversation and adding to what had been a pretty limited interpretation of history, of the present, of whatever it was. But it's, for some people, they only see it as addition is dilution of what was there. And
and really changing the power structure.
Yeah,
that's right.
I mean, all those white guys who invaded the Capitol with their red hats on were, clearly mad because they felt they were losing control, and it was unfair control, right? And it's the same with the anti-abortion movement. That women dare to have control of our own physical selves. Well, I think we're all in the same stage of impatience, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we should not complain so much, but figure out what we're going to do, what subversive things.
Yeah.
What are you doing now that you feel energized by, that feels like it's maybe making a change? I don't mean to direct it. Yeah, right.
Lately, I have been trying to get myself to do things before I feel ready, and that's been really, really empowering. to do things that I think other people might judge or might find dumb or whatever, to just do them anyway.
Just do it. Right?
Yeah, and it's from those things that I ended up here. So they've paid massive dividends. So I just kind of learned my lesson in the sweetest way, which is just,
That's great. Is there an example that comes to mind? Maybe the first thing or
Yeah,
just the typical thing?
I started a blog at the beginning of quarantine. It's called A Seat at the Table, kind of the same idea that we have here, just that everyone has a voice and that we all deserve to be a part of the things that are going on around us and be knowledgeable about them. And then that turned into a podcast, and then that turned into more opportunities. And like I said, I'm here now, but every time before I hit publish, I think to myself, this is stupid. No one's going to read it. No one's going to listen. But then you just do it anyway. And
that's great. Do it anyway. It's a great motto.
Yeah,
right.
It works.
Yeah.
And it was Shirley Chisholm who said, if you don't have a seat at the table, bring a chair.
Right. Yeah, and I really relate to what Marissa said. So just by being here, like, this is not my native language, so I would always second guess myself.
We feel, don't we all feel kind of inferior?
No, but it's
bilingual.
No, but I always second guess myself and just by being here and throwing myself out there, and it was something that I told the media management students when we were at orientation, like, just do it. Just put your shyness in a little box and your like doubt and everything, and do it, because like nobody will do it for you. And if I want to succeed here, being an immigrant, I mean, I have to take all the opportunities I can. I have to take an internship, take GA-ships, take everything that I can to make myself more valuable and stand out. So I think that's what I'm doing to make me, and that is making me feel better.
No, that's great.
Do you want to stay here?
Yeah.
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 And just kind of on the same wavelength as everybody else, kind of the same thing. I mentioned earlier, I'm going back to school later in life, so very often I kind of suffer from imposter syndrome. Even being here today, I've only started any form of public advocacy maybe last year in my college, but it's because I went back to school. I said yes to doing that, being in my 30s, and then even being there, taking the classes, working full time, it's a lot, but, you just kind of have to do it. You kind of make yourself uncomfortable, because you have to just realize at the end of the day, you're trying to better yourself to better other people, to better the world, even if you don't think that it's impactful right away. Somebody will see something, I'm pretty sure in your podcast and your blog, like someone will read it or hear it and be like, I felt that way too. And then they feel seen and they feel heard, and that's always a good thing.
And your experience from 18 to 30 is probably very valuable, right? You know things other students don't know, right?
Yeah, I really think that going back to school later in life was more beneficial to me. I don't think that I would have been as productive or as focused and aware of the things when I'm 18 going to college. When I came in today, I was actually like on a Zoom class, because I had it at 9:30, so I was in the cab right over listening to it, and it's things like that I probably would not have done, when I was younger. I wouldn't have really seen this opportunity as the opportunity that it is and made it work. Something would have had to have given, and, I might have said no, I was like, oh, that's too much, I can't do all those things. But, when you're passionate about things, you figure it out, you make it work.
It has been an honor sharing virtual space with you. Please check out exponent.org to learn more. We'd love to hear from you.